Stephanie, Evelyn, Queenbella, Elijah, and I, Francis, here to take you through our in-depth analysis of KCB. We recommend a hold with a target price of 27.20 Kenya shillings, an upside of 11.02% from the current price of 24.5 shillings. Our decision is guided by KCB's enhanced move to fintech, growing market share, capital adequacy, and flight to safety advantage. With a rich history spanning over 116 years, KCB has moved from one branch in Mombasa in 1896 to over 260 branches, 11,948 agents, and 962 ATMs in 6 Eastern Africa countries. The first bank to have had a strong presence in the Africa Great Lake region with an asset base of 558 billion, market capitalization of 74 billion, and a total customer base of slightly above 10 billion. In terms of economy, Kenya's GDP growth rate stood at a relatively stable rate of 6%. However, KCB reported a loss of 3.4 billion in South Sudan due to the impact of the hyperinflation. Amidst this, KCB reports a customer deposit of 10.35% and a loan book CAGR of 11.73%. Total market share in the market is 13.1%. In an industry still adjusting to the impact of the interest rate cap, strict supervision by the revitalized CBK that saw 3 banks going under receivership in the past 18 months, KCB has held its head high among its peers, emerging first in deposit comparatives and second behind equity in loan comparatives. In a bid to better this performance going forward, KCB plans to digitize its systems, consolidate its operations, and improve customer experience.
KCB also continues to grow its relationships with its stakeholders through the KCB Foundation, particularly in the communities in which it operates. The bank's most recent flagship project, Tujiajiri, is a skills development and job creation program that seeks to catalyze employment and wealth creation opportunities among existing Drakali entrepreneurs and the youth. This initiative earned KCB the Best Sustainability Award 2016 from the Marketing Society of Kenya, and as seen, KCB has been awarded a number of other accolades for its stellar performance in different fields. With the recent amendments to the Banking Act, KCB has turned to digital banking to support and sustain its earnings, and is in the process of setting up a new financial technology unit, KCB FinTech, that is set to start its operations officially in June 2017. KCB is also improving its customer approach to withstand increasing competition in the region by focusing on digital solutions such as e-banking to offer faster, efficient, and more effective services to its customers. Now on to the balance sheet. We see that KCB has maintained steady asset growth over the years. However, we expect that in 2017, the loan book will decrease, and thus we note a negative loan growth in 2017. The dividend payout ratios, as forecasted by the team, are relatively stable. We expected that KCB's dividends will stay at 2 shillings per share. However, KCB recently announced that they shall propose a final dividend of 3 shillings per share, thus driving up the dividend payout ratios. And as you can see, South Sudan remains fragile with inflation rates above 400%. To mitigate this, KCB is rationalizing branches in the country and introducing a no-lending policy.
So back to Kenya. On the 24th of August 2016, the President appended into law the Banking Amendment Act, which introduced a cap of 14% on the lending rate and 7% on the deposit rate. Consequently, this led to a decrease in loans and advances and a NIM compression, but a subsequent increase in customer deposits. Now narrowing it down to KCB statements, we can see that the loan grew at a 5-year CAGR of 11.73%, but we project this to decline by 6% in 2017, attributable to the fact that the bank no longer has an incentive to lend. Conversely, deposit mobilization is expected to rise by 12% in 2017 due to the flight safety advantage that KCB has over Tier 2 and Tier 3 banks, given the recent dynamism of the financial sector. So from the above projection, we can see that the loan-to-deposit ratio is expected to average at 76%, signaling that the bank will be able to sustain its loans. The NPL ratio of the bank stood at 6% in 2016, which is in line with the industry target. However, we project a 20% increase in NPLs in 2017 from our deliberations with management. Now moving on to revenue, we project an earlier stated NIM compression of 4% in 2016. However, this is to be supplemented by a proliferation of income from government securities, which will stand at a 52% all-time high in 2017, thereby leading to a net NIM stabilization of 3% going forward. So with the wake of the interest rate caps, also came a directive to banks that fees and commission income, the largest contributor to NFI, will be equally monitored. Now this, coupled with a subdued loan book, is anticipated to lead to a 26% decline in NFI. So finally, the NFI decline and the NIM compression is expected to spill through to the lender's profit, leading to a 21.3% decrease in PBT. This will in turn lead to a 6.5% decline in ROE and a 1% decline in ROA in 2017. However, the significant decline in CIR from levels of 55% in 2015 to 32% in 2016 more than compensates for this dip in returns. And this can be attributed to the fact that the bank will use technology to acquire paper deposits. So from the above projection, we can see that KCB appears to be in a trap. However, we project that this is going to be in the interim, thereby cementing our hold recommendation.
Moving on to valuation, our hold recommendation is based on a target price of 27.2 shillings versus the current price of 24.5 shillings. Our valuation was based on 3 different models, that is the asset-based valuation model, second the market approach, and third the dividend discount model. Starting with asset-based valuation model, we got a price of 42.04 shillings. This was based on a discount rate of 20% and the treasury bill rate of 10%. Second, we have the market approach, whereby we got a price of 25.83 shillings. Here we got a product of our peer price to book ratio and our book value per share of KCB. Third, we have the dividend discount model, which gave us a price of 14.56 shillings. Here we use a terminal value of 15.31 and a constant dividend per share of 2 shillings. Eventually, we weighted all 3 models at an equal weight of 33.3%, whereby we got a weighted average price of 27.2 shillings. This is an 11.02% upside, therefore our hold recommendation.
Finally, we summarize the risks faced by KCB in these matrix. First is change in legislation, increased regulations, and NIM compression. The lender's profitability is expected to decrease by 21% in 2017 due to the rise in NPLs. Second is the market rate risk, the forex risk, and the fiscal policy instability risk. This is because of slow economic growth, political instability, and terrorism. Third is the rise in NPLs by 20% due to capped interest rates. KCB has set strategies to mitigate against these risks. KCB has a policy that they've dubbed it walking back strategy, whereby it allows them to provision for Basel II, Basel III, and IFRS requirements, thus avoiding risk or avoiding shock in case they are faced with those requirements. Finally, the bank has also come up with a strategy of mitigating against the NFIs, the NPLs by making sure that their NFIs will reduce the gap that is set by the same. KCB scored a 2.17 according to Camel's model. This is an evidence of a bank that meets major standards of a strong performer in its industry, and it's also cemented by the 1.8 score according to the Porter's analysis. Moreover, the bargaining power of consumers is high, the purchasing power of suppliers is low, and the entry barriers into the industry is also increasing. The strengths
just explain to us the NIM's evolution. You did mention some various numbers. I didn't really get what is your outlook on NIMs going forward.
So we project a decline in NIMs of 4% in 2016. However, we expect this to be supplemented by an increase in a proliferation of income from government securities, which will rise to a 52% all-time high in 2017. So the balance between the increase in income from NIMs and the increase in income from government securities and the decrease in income from loans and advances balances out the NIM compression, giving a flat rate of 3% going forward.
So you don't consider interest from government securities as part of your NIM's evaluation?
Net interest income is made up of interest from loans and advances and also from government securities. So the decline in interest from loans and advances will be supplemented by an increase in income from government securities. That's why we have a stable NIM going forward.
So it will fall from the current 9% to 3%? Or?
Yes, as shown in our graph, it will first fall because of the sharp, the recent change in the cap rates. Therefore, the sharp decline because of the loan interest. Eventually, the banks will definitely look out for other opportunities where they can increase their interest margin. Therefore, the steady growth after the 2017 year. Yes.
Then for my second question, you did mention that the cost-to-income ratio will fall from about 50% to 32% in 1 year. Can you explain what would cause that drastic drop?
The income will decrease, but KCB is managing its costs much better, so the ratio will go down. So that signifies that they are managing the costs much better than they were due to the decrease in income because of the cap rate.
But the drop is about 20%, from 52 to 32. That's significant for a bank of KCB's size. Probably a drop in cost of about 10 billion. So there must be a certain cost item that you feel they'll be able to manage within 1 year for it to drop to that level. For me, I'm struggling to see what that cost would be.
The use of technology to acquire cheaper deposits is what is making their cost go much, much lower than they have been in previous years.
In the, probably just to add, in the previous, before the interest rate cap was brought, KCB was actually measuring on the loans, and guys will go and much of the income will come from actually there was cost in the booking in the books and everything that in the process of acquiring a loan. However, right now KCB is measuring on fintech, on mobile banking and digital banking, and this has reduced the cost significantly because they are now on mass. So 2,000 guys with a 2% out of compared to 2% of guys or 20 people previously with 200 shillings.
Yeah, so basically it's because of the volume. The mobile banking has enabled KCB to really bank on volumes rather than even banking on the quantity they would get among the few that would walk into the bank to inquire for a loan.
Again, we said earlier on that one of the strategies that KCB is using is to rationalize on its branches. In South Sudan, KCB experienced a loss, and one of the ways that they told us that they are going to mitigate this is to consolidate its operations. By consolidating its operations, they're going to when they had around 20 branches, they're going to decrease even the branches. This we consider will also reduce the cost.
I'm particularly interested in how you came about your discounting factor, the discounting rate, and also you're assuming a constant dividend per share that is throughout your projected horizon. I don't understand why, because as she said, they already increased in 2016. Yeah, those two.
So I will answer the question on the discount rate, then my teammates will answer the other two questions. On the discount rate, we use the CAPM model. Sorry, there was an error about work. It was supposed to be CAPM, human error, sorry. So about the discount rate, we use the CAPM model where we had the risk-free rate. We use the 182 T-bill of 10%. Then we also have the beta factor of 1.2, which we got from Bloomberg. We also have the market return, which we expect to be at around 18%. Therefore, our market premium was 8%. So those are our highlights for coming up with the discounting rate of 20%.
Do you have any particular reason why you're using the 182 T-bill?
The 182 T-bill is known as the 6 months money, so it is a good measure. That is why we opted it, because it's a good measure of the 6 months money.
So this target price, is it for 6 months, or I'm trying to understand this question?
It was based on a forecast of 5 years, from 2016 to 2020. So it's 5 years, but we focused on the 182-day T-bill. It's not because it's a forecast of 6 months, but because we thought it was a good reflection of all the 5 years. Considering that the 5-year bond is around 13%, then the 1-year T-bill is around 11. Yeah. So it was the most conservative measure, the most conservative rate that we could use. Those are the considerations.
So you mentioned market risk premium of 8. How did you come up with that?
We came up with a market risk premium of 8 because our risk-free rate is 10%, as she has earlier talked about, and we expect that the market returns to be at around 18.3%, which is rounded off to 18%. So 18 minus 10, gives us a market premium of 8.
So the expected market return is based on judgment or analysis?
Our consideration for the market rate of return was the current inflation rate. It's around 6%, though in February it hit a high of 9%. So we considered the 6% and also the treasury bill rate of 10%. So adding the two gives us around 16%. So I went on a higher end. Any investor would want a higher return based on the prevailing market conditions. Yes.
On the dividends, we assumed that there's constant growth because from management, this is what we gathered. However, recently when they announced their financial year 2016 statements, we saw that they're actually planning to propose 3 shillings per share.
Moreover, we did our valuation before they announced their statements, and during our deliberations with management, they were very affirmative that the DPS will stay constant at 2 shillings per share. So we talk about the DPS going higher in the investment summary just to cement our hold that as much as you are going to get a 2 shilling dividend, you're going to get a 3 shilling dividend this year.
So with that new information, do you feel that should change?
We shall still hold our decision because looking at our recommendation of a hold, it still fits our hold because the increase in dividends is actually going to benefit our shareholders that we are telling to hold their shares. So for us, when you're forecasting, we dependent on the historical figure, and the historical figure for the past 5 years was a constant. And with the information that they gave us during the management meeting, we saw that it was a good assumption that we can make that it shall be constant at 2 shillings per share.
Okay, and adding on that, the 3 shillings will not make us actually change our decision because this is a forecast of 5 years. We cannot just, 1 year cannot change our decision just because for 1 year they changed. So probably it would be good for us to advise the investors based on the forecast that we did rather than just an announcement.
Okay, maybe just to add on to that, we all know that after the announcement that they would offer a 3 shilling dividend, the stock price just started rising and rising and rising. Right now it's at 31.5 shillings, right? But yeah, as of yesterday it was 31.5 shillings. So it was a rise in stock price because of one factor. But we need to remember that right now in Kenya there is a lot of political instability considering there's an election in August and a lot of unsettled issues as regards the regulatory sector. Therefore, we still stick by our hold. The stock price was affected by one factor. Therefore, given the uncertainty in the conditions this year, we still stick to our hold. And I also reaffirm what my teammates have said. So we stick to it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.